So Hank and I are not in the bike. We are driving to a local dirt con, and we could bike there. It's well within biking distance for us, but it is obviously, it would be main roads. Yes, Henry. It would be main roads instead of trails, which I prefer to ride. So car it is. So hopefully we can find some good stuff at this con and maybe get a donut afterwards. That's the plan. You ready, Henry? All right, let's go. So Hank and I are back from our trip to the Dirt Con, and I should mention that when I refer to local small shows at Dirt Cons, I think it stemmed from like the Dirt Mall reference in Mallrats. Me and my best friend saw that the weekend it came out when we were kids and getting into, we'd gotten into comics and stuff like that. And for some odd reason that always stuck with like smaller cons. It just seemed like they were, when we were younger, like they were seedier, like they were dudes just throwing dirty old long boxes out of their dirty old vans. So understand that when I refer to small shows as dirt cons, it's from a place of love, not derogatory. And so we hit up the local show and found quite a few good things. So I'm going to go through those real quick. I have the first 2 volumes of Frank Miller's Daredevil in trade, and have been trying to slowly kind of move backwards to get those. So to finish off volume 2, I needed just a few issues. And luckily I ran into a very nice vendor by the name of Mark, who was a super friendly guy. I wish I had gotten his contact info, because he was actually nice enough, which I thought was really cool at the show, to write down other things that I was looking for in case if I'm there next month, because I do these about once a month. I think there's a break in November, but I know there's a show in October and there's a show in December. And I try to hit at least a few. Don't really go in the summertime, tend to go more in the fall and the winter for these. I don't know why. It's just kind of the way that it shakes out. So, the books. Picked up Daredevil 173, a Miller and Jansen. This whole run has been a masterpiece. I don't think there's anybody who's into comics who's like, oh, that Miller Jansen run is mediocre. Picked up 174, which is the first team appearance of the Hand, I guess. I really never thought of them as a team, more as like a gang, I guess. Yeah, but pretty excited about that one. Grabbed number 175. Picked up 176, which is the first appearance of Stick. And when I mentioned that to my wife when we got home, that's what this was, she was like, that reminds me of Splinter from the Ninja Turtles. So then I went into the whole, and went into the Eastman and Laird foot, hand, Splinter, Stick, influenced by Miller's Daredevil run. So, and then the final issue that I needed out of that group of issues to complete my volume 2 Miller and Jansen run was number 178. And so with that, I can now retire this volume to either be sold on eBay, or if I ever set up a table at a Dirt Con, or if I want to give some ninja-loving kid on Halloween a ton of comics that he's probably too young for. And his parents will inevitably show up at our door the following day and be like, why do you give this trade paperback of Elektra stabbing Ben Urich to my kid? So maybe I should just sell it. But I'm happy to have the single issues because I prefer the smell of single issues over, you know, trades. This one wasn't so bad as some of the more modern ones, like actually I was gonna, in the next Corner Box Classics, I'm gonna talk about that panel right there because it's a beauty, and I can tell by looking at this after reading it last night in the issue, and this looks nowhere near as interesting as the newsprint copy. So my mania continues. So speaking of things that I'm picking up that I already have in a collected format, I was able to find a copy of the last part of Kraven's Last Hunt, Spectacular Spider-Man number 132. So I have a Kraven the Hunter story. So I had never read Kraven the Hunter, and people were raving about it. And I was like, I went to the store and I picked up this, which is a collected edition of it, and I don't like it. And so what happened is this is my argument for not necessarily always reading things immediately when someone that you trust tells you that it's worth reading, because there's certain things that just sort of hit you at least for me. It's like if somebody recommends music for me to listen to and I listen to it, I might not be in the mood for that particular like style of music or whatever. I might already be like kind of engrossed in something else musically, and so it just doesn't click for me. And that's kind of what happened with Kraven's Last Hunt, because it was like recommended to me as this Spider-Man masterpiece, and I read it on like a hot sunny summer day, like almost like at the beach. Like I was like, no, I'll give Kraven's Last, which is the absolute wrong time to read this. So I am looking forward for some dark and stormy fall evening when it's like raining and, you know, the wind's whistling through the trees, to give this its fair shake in a environment that is you know, better suited for the story. So there's that. And I'm actually going to pause here for a second and come back with another book that kind of ties into the whole reading things when it hits you, if the button works. So now when I complete this, when I find the missing issues of this, I will also be able to put that in the get rid of pile. But speaking of things that like sit on your kind of to read pile for years and then you finally read them, I had this Amazing Spider-Man and Human Torch by Dan Slott and Ty Templeton on like my to read pile for, I swear to God, like a decade, where I didn't read it. And it was always like, it would always get moved to the top, and then kind of something else would come out and I'd put it on top of that, and I'd be like, well, one day I'm going to get to this. And when I started doing the, you know, 61 to the present reread of all my Marvel stuff, in the beginning of Amazing Spider-Man, I cycled in the Kurt Busiek, Pat O'Leaf, Untold Tales of Spider-Man from the 90s, which is just fantastic. And then I was like, you know, I'll give this a shot, because each issue of this happens like during a different time period. And so there were some things that were like, this book made me like laugh until my sides hurt. It was so good. And I was super disappointed that I had waited so long to read it, because I was like, man, I absolutely love this. Why did I wait? And then it hit me. Some of the jokes and some of the gags in this particular book would have meant nothing to me because I hadn't read the time period of Spider-Man that it was based in. So in retrospect, like, I was actually happy that this waited until I was ready. So what I'm saying is, don't always rush to read everything. Sometimes things just hit you at the right time, and that's that. So last two books that I got Rom number 58, and I don't really have any huge attachment to Rom, but I was flipping through some dollar books as we were skating out of the place, and I just thought this cover was really cool. I don't know why. I was like, oh, look at the little Ant-Man in there, and just looked like a lot of fun. So I was like, well, and I was searching through the ROM because I wanted to get ROM Annual 4 because I'm a big Gladiator and the Shi'ar fan. So this had kind of been on my list of things that I wanted to pick up because it was you know, Imperial Guard, Shi'ar, Gladiator, all that stuff is X-Men adjacent to me. And so I was like, I don't know how I missed this, but I would like to add it to my X-Men adjacent collection. So some pretty good pickups for, you know, we probably spent like an hour running around this little haul. And then, as you saw, went and got donuts, went to the park. Pretty good day for the two of us. So I am now going to kick it over to some corner box classics that were released that I would have picked up if we had pedaled up to the shop November 24th, 1981. There's probably going to be an outfit change because I might do it tomorrow. So if I'm in a different shirt, the magic of editing. So thanks, and stick around for the corner box classics. So I just decided while I'm down here, I might as well run through the corner box classics. So here we go with that. So first book that I would have picked up, and by far my favorite of the week of November 24th, 1981, is Daredevil number 180, The Damned, written, penciled, and inked by Frank Miller. No, I'm sorry. Written and penciled by Frank Miller, finished art, inks, colors by Klaus Janson, and letters by Joseph Rosen. And so in this issue, Elektra has obviously, she, at the end of last issue, threw a sigh into Urich's lung or back and punctured his lung. So some time has passed since this issue. And Tara is like leading in a landslide. And there are just like... So Urich's looking through, he's discussing with like another member of the Bugle, like why he's basically been like brushed, like given up on the Tara case, because obviously like he's free. I mean, he got stabbed, Daredevil got his butt kicked by Elektra, and so he's going through some photos and he finds a picture of a woman that looks like Vanessa. So he's like, hey, run and pull up the Kingpin file. And then it cuts to a cabbie dropping Matt in full Daredevil gear, but still with the cast because his foot got stuck in a bear trap a few issues ago. And Urich going down into the sewers because Urich has heard tale of people living down there, and he thinks that's where this woman came from, because he just assumed when he was snapping the photos that she was some homeless woman that was like just trying to get money off of Fisk or whatever. But there's a panel. I know people are gonna get bummed that I folded it, but whatever, it's my comic. I just love this, like the reflection of the Twin Towers with the ripple effect of the water. I just think it's just a beautiful panel, and I stared at that one for quite a bit. And then so they go down, like basically Matt's like, get out of the tunnel. You know, like Urich, they hit a point where he's like, it's gonna get sketch, so you gotta beat it. And so Matt goes further down, and Urich winds up getting taken by some of the people that are clearly down in the sewer. And so then Jameson is like doing a retraction from something that happened in the Bugle about Tara, and that's being watched in Foggy Nelson's office. And that was, I mentioned that, I showed that panel right there in the hardcover, which is colored differently, and I just think it looks so much better in the newsprint. And just it's not going to show up though, but I mean the Venetian blinds, the sunset, the cityscape, the amount of stuff on the bookshelves, the spokes of the wheelchair, like everything about that panel is just, you do not get that. Okay, now it's not that you don't. It's few and far between these days in modern comics, at least in modern Marvel comics, because that's primarily what I read. It's what I read. One or two indies here, and I might dip my toe into one DC book every once in a while, read one issue, and realize like, oh, it's gonna, like, I'm a completist. So if I start reading Batman, I'm gonna have to add a whole new addition to the house. Anyways, this level of detail, I just don't see it in a majority of the art. There are some artists out there right now that are modern Marvel artists that I absolutely love, but like nothing compares to the old school. Anyways, so there's a couple, like, there's a burn panel in Dark Phoenix Saga where they're like, it's Sebastian Shaw in his office, and just like the woodwork in his desk, like the detail in Sebastian Shaw's desk is insane. And I just, when I'm reading newer books, I just feel like they'd be like, oh, here's a plain background, you know? And it's like actiony, but the attention to like minute details, I feel like is this is where I like put on my old man hat, and I'm like, new comics, but that's where I'm at. And this is what I'm learning as I'm reading all of these classics. And you know, like, I grew up a 90s kid, like, loved the 90s. You know, that was like my introduction into comics, was the 90s. And so I was always, oh, the 90s are great, blah, blah, blah. And there is stuff that I still absolutely adore about the 90s, and things that I will, like, fight to the death for in 90s comics. But reading 70s, reading 80s stuff, it's like, it doesn't compare. I mean, you know, there's a little bit of like the slow burn that was lost, you know, that I would love to get back to. And the other thing that really kind of like bums me out is like the loss of a really good supporting cast. Like the X-Men used to have like Stevie Hunter and Moira before Krakoa happened, where there were like humans that were for the cause too in X-Men. And, you know, Spider-Man's, like, not only is the Rogues Gallery fantastic, but like his supporting cast, just the people in his lives, are so interesting and such a big part of the story. And I feel like there's still elements of that for sure in new runs, but I don't think it's as much of a focal point. Anyways, so Chiraz winning, and Matt's now like lower into the sewer system and like introduced to the bad guy they call the King, and he is like basically like Vanessa is his wife down there, and they throw him the King throws Matt and Ben into a sewer pipe or whatever with that has a alligator that somebody flushed down there, and it's the whole thing. So there's like a fight between Matt and the alligator. He winds up getting out of it and fighting the King and takes him down, and you know, the people in the sewer then are chanting that Daredevil is the new king. Shira has won in a landslide the mayoral election, and Matt shows up in Kingpin's office and tosses Vanessa's ring at him. And he's like, I have her. And Kingpin's like, what do you want? And he's like, Shira needs to resign. So Shira admits to some bad dealings and basically is like the fall guy for the Kingpin in this. And then it's the last page reveal, spoilers for a 43-year-old comic, is that Kingpin calls Elektra in, and he's like, can't kill Matt Murdock because it would draw too much attention, but let's get rid of Foggy Nelson. And so that's where the issue ends. And it is a fantastic issue, as so far all of the Miller stuff has been. So up next, if I was pedaling it up to the shop on November 24th, I would have picked up Dazzler number 13, Trial and Terror, written by Danny Fingeroth, pencils by Frank Springer, inks by Vince Coletta, letters by Janice Chang, and colors by Don Warfield. And so Allison's like at her dad's house. They have a strained relationship. He wants her to be a lawyer. She wants to be a musician. So this causes conflict between the two of them. She's digging through the attic, looking at her mom's thing, who has been deceased her whole life. And she finds a little brooch. And so she pins the brooch on, goes downstairs. Her grandmother, her father's mother, is at the house, excited to see Allie. And she's like, you got to get out of here before your dad sees you. Dad shows up. He's a little bit excited to see Allie, bit of a gruff dude, but then he sees the brooch and he's immediately like, get out, beat it. So there's got to be something about the brooch. Later on, Dr. Paul, who's been in the picture, who's been kind of wooing Allison, he breaks up with her in a public restaurant. She throws a fit, and as she's leaving, federal marshals show up to arrest her for the death of Claw, who was in Project Pegasus when she was being tested for her light powers there. Claw, obviously a bad guy, but he was under the guise of Project Pegasus, so I assume this is a Project Pegasus thing. So they wind up having to keep her overnight, and they send her to Rikers, and she is met with this like gang of ladies in the prison, in the women's section of Rikers, and it's led by this one here, who goes by the name Titania, but I don't think it's the same Titania. I think it was just the name, but Screaming Mimi is there, and that's the real Screaming Mimi. Anyways, so they're trying to like, beat the crap out of Allison, but she winds up getting the best of them, and then she is later on in the issue found not guilty of murder, although she still feels terrible about what happened with Claw. So that's Dazzler 13. Ka-Zar number 12 is like super convoluted with the Dante's Inferno thing. So Belasco has everyone captive, all of Ka-Zar's people, Shauna and this android Dirk, and Booth is the guy, Buth, B-U-T-H. I don't know how you would, I don't know. And I'm not super familiar, and there wasn't like, he wasn't in the cartoon, so there's, no record that I know of that has his name. Anyways, so turns out that Belasco's like beloved, who also happened to be, I think at a time, Dante's beloved, Beatrice, died during childbirth. So Belasco's goal here with this pentagram stone amulet is to contact the elder gods and have her consciousness like put into Shanna's body so that his beloved will be reborn. And so he basically like tortures all of Ka-Zar's pals, has Dirk, the like android dude, rip himself apart, and he then does his villain monologue thing where he explains that like 7 centuries ago he was trying to contact the elder gods in Italy and used alchemy and the black arts to summon them from a parallel universe, and he was going to help them, and in the process they changed him into like the demon form that he has, because otherwise he was just like a normal dude. And during this he fought Dante, and so while this is all going on, Dirk, the android guy that pulled himself apart, kind of like used one hand, gets Ka-Zar out, and so the battle begins, and they wind up like the elder gods are summoned, and during all this, like Ka-Zar snatches the amulet away again, which like means the elder gods can't return. And so in their like dying moments, they're pissed that their plan has been foiled again, and so they take down Belasco with them. So that is Ka-Zar the Savage number 12, and that's me tapping out of Ka-Zar until issue number, or not issue number, until like 97, 98, when Mark Waid and Adam Kubert bring the title back. So up next, and the final issue of November 24th, 1981, that I would have pedaled up to the shop and picked up, is Marvel 2-in-1, number 85, The Final Fate of Giant Man, written by Tom DeFalco with pencils by Ron Wilson, inks by Chick Stone, letters by Joseph Rosen, and colors by George Russo. So this, it opens up, Bill Foster is at the Baxter Building, or Four Freedoms Plaza, if it's called that yet, but I think it's still the Baxter Building. And he's suffering from radiation poisoning. Reed's been trying to do, he like got this while in a fight with Atom Smasher. And Reed's trying to help, but Bill is basically like, I just want to go back to the West Coast and see my friends, colleagues, my girl. Like, this is it for me, so I don't want to be stuck here getting tested. And Reed's kind of like fighting with him, like, man, this is going to kill you, which like knowing what happens in Civil War kind of makes this like Reed fighting so hard to keep him alive a little bit ironic. So Ben is like, I'll fly in the pogo plane back to the West Coast. Like, I owe you that much. And so we cut to them flying over there. And then to Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman is investigating some warehouse robberies that are happening in the area. Like the insurance company has hired her. And turns out that Atom Smasher is the one that's like leading the gang of people that are like messing up these laboratories and stealing stuff. And one of the lab warehouses that they hit is Bill Foster's. And so they go at it again. And one of like a little known power that is like hinted at in the beginning of this of Spider-Woman's is that if she gets like hit with something or some type of like disease or anything, she grows an immunity to it. And so she like winds up, they defeat Atom Smasher, and then in the end they wind up using some of Jessica Drew's blood with the like with the immunity thing to cure Bill Foster. So it ends with Bill Foster cured and Ben Grimm feeling much better because his buddy is no longer dying of radiation poisoning. So there you have it. Those are the 4 issues that I would have picked up if I'd been pedaling up to the shop on November 24th, 1981. And they were all pretty good. I mean, like, I got the Ka-Zar one because of Belasco, and I'm an X-Men guy. But Daredevil and Dazzler was a lot of fun, and I've been enjoying Marvel 2-in-1 way more than I thought I was. When I first saw that title, it was like digging through back issue bins when I was a kid. I thought it was one of those anthology series that was like 2 stories in one, not realizing it was just Marvel Team Up with Ben Grimm. And so I've actually never read that story until this, like any Marvel Team Up, and it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. So thanks for sticking around for the Corner Box Classics, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you thought about the stuff that I picked up at the show today, if the donuts looked good, and let me know if you read and enjoyed or didn't any of these classics from 1981. And I will see you again on New Comic Wednesday this week as Hank and I will make a ride. Yeah, it's one of the last summery days, I think. It's like last day in the 80s before we start to dip into fall weather, which I'm very excited about. So thanks for taking this ride with us, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye. The button.